The bones of the appendicular skeleton. The appendicular skeleton equals 126 bones of the pectoral girdle, upper limbs, pelvic girdle, lower limbs. Skeletal organization. Pectoral girdle equals scapula plus clavicles. Upper limbs equals humerus, radius, ulna, carpals, metacarpals, phalanges. Pelvic girdle equals 2 os coxae or coxal bones. Lower limbs equals femur, tibia, fibula, patella, tarsals, metatarsals, phalanges. The pectoral girdle 2 clavicles plus 2 scapula. Supports the upper limbs, provides a place for muscle attachment. Arrangement of bones. Is good for mobility, but bad for stability. The pectoral girdle clavicles equals collarbones S shape. Not very strong, easily fractured. The pectoral girdle scapula equals spade shoulder blades. Broad, triangular bones. The pectoral girdle. Glenoid cavity equals a depression where the head of the humerus fits. The upper limb's humerus, location equals upper arm. Extends from the scapula to the elbow. Head fits into the glenoid cavity of the scapula. The upper limb's radius, location equals forearm. On the thumb side between the elbow and wrist, the upper limb's ulna equals forearm. Longer than the radius, overlaps the humerus. The upper limbs. Carpals equals wrist. 8 bones, 2 rows of 4 short bones. The upper limb's 5 metacarpals equals palm distal ends form the knuckles. Numbered 1 to 5 starting with the thumb. The upper limb's 14 phalanges equals fingers, digits. 3 in each finger, proximal, middle, distal, 2 in the thumb, pollex, proximal, distal. The pelvic girdle. Made of 2 os coxae or coxal bones which articulate with each other and the sacrum. The pelvic girdle. Functions include support for the trunk, attachments for the lower limbs, protection for the bladder, large intestine, and reproductive organs. Has a cup-shaped acetabulum which receives the head of the femur. The pelvic girdle. Each coxal bone has 3 parts. Ilium, the largest portion, upper prominence called the iliac crest. Ischium, the lowest portion, you sit on the ischial tuberosities. Pubis, the anterior portion, fuses at the pubic symphysis. The pelvic girdle. The obturator foramen is a large opening where nerves and blood vessels pass from the spinal cord to the lower limbs. The lower limbs. The lower limb's femur equals thigh bone. Longest, strongest bone in the body. Extends from the hip to the knee. Head of femur fits into the acetabulum of the coxae. Articulates with the femur. Patella equals kneecap, a sesamoid bone. Articulates with the femur. The lower limb's tibia equals larger bone of the lower leg, shin. On the medial side of the leg. The lower limb's fibula equals smaller bone of the lower leg. On the lateral lower leg. Bears no weight. The lower limb's tarsals equals ankle 7 tarsal bones. The talus is the only free-moving bone of the ankle. The calcaneus, heel is the largest tarsal bone. The lower limb's metatarsals equals soles, arch. Numbered 1 to 5 starting with the big toe. Longitudinal arch plus transverse arch. When arches weaken you may get flat feet. The lower limb's phalanges equals toes. 14 total, 3 in each except the big toe. Joints 230 in the body equals functional junctions between bones. Bind parts of the skeletal system. Make bone growth possible. Allow the skeleton to change shape during birth. Enable movement. Joints. Classified according to their degree of movement equals functional classification. Immovable. Slightly movable. Freely movable. Joints. Also classified according to the type of tissue. Binding bone equals structural classification. Fibrous. Cartilaginous. Synovial. Fibrous joints. Bones are tightly joined by a layer of dense connective tissue. Allow little or no movement. X. Sutures of the skull, tibia fibula. Cartilaginous joints. Bones are connected by fibrocartilage. Allow limited movement. X. Intervertebral discs, pubic symphysis, first rib to sternum. Synovial joints. Bones are covered with articular cartilage and held together by a fibrous joint capsule, outer layer of ligaments plus inner layer of synovial membrane. Synovial joints. Some have menisci, shock-absorbing pads, some have bursae, fluid-filled sacs located between the skin and bony prominences such as knees and elbows. Synovial joints. Types of synovial joints: gliding hinge pivot, ellipsoidal, saddle, ball and socket.